guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with my ongoing 31 days of horror. This is golly, day 15. It's Sunday, right? Day number 15, episode number 15, however you want to look at it. You see it, man. How can you do this without having some Joe D'Amato in there somewhere? And maybe the perfect film is Anthropophagous, man. I love me some island horror. The thunderstorms and rain that rages and the darkness and just a lot of the atmosphere that comes along with this film. I remember this movie, man, back in the day, renting it on VHS. This is, I'm still running with the 88. When I got this is the movie, or a movie, one of the movies that really pushed me over the edge and went and forced me to go region free, to get myself an all-region player, so I could start getting movies that you just could not find anywhere around here. Anthropophagous at the time, and I think Severance or somebody, since then has released their American, their release of it. But at the time, I so badly wanted this movie in my collection, and I knew I really wanted to go region free. And so, you just kind of develop motivations and reasons for finally pulling the trigger. And so this was actually one of the first, this I think was the first small group of movies that I bought from Amazon, on Amazon UK. Anyways, I love island horror, man. I grew up with this on VHS. You're never as smart as you wish you were looking back, as a kid, not knowing the state of physical media and where it would go someday. Because if you really did, and you were really into films back then, you would have obviously just racked up a bunch of debt and bought as much as you could on VHS, on not, knowing what it was going to mean to you later on. But you don't do that stuff, right? So anyways, George Eastman, man, I do believe, if I remember right, he was one of the writers working with D'Amato. Of course, he worked on Stage Fright, uncredited, as Irving Wallace. But he is our Anthropophagous, man. He is our cannibal, man. Basically, if you've never seen Anthropophagous, man, it is a notorious from being on the banned list back in the day in England. He is, for one scene in particular, let me just say, for being once banned, when you watch this movie for the first time, you cannot figure out for the life of you why this movie... Now, there's one scene in particular, but you take that one scene out, and I'm telling you, I mean, some people, now I love it. I love the slow pace of it. I love the fact that, quite a bit happens in between some of the scare moments or whatnot. I just love the story. This could be an extra 15 minutes long. It wouldn't faze me one bit. I just enjoy the ride every time I put this in, man. I love, is it Tisa Farrow's character? Is she the one with the tarot cards? She ends up, when they basically just show that there's nothing but death in the future. They're on, okay, so anyways, if you've never seen it, you got a bunch of kids. They're not kids, they're young adults, old enough to be on this kind of a journey by themselves. They're going island hopping or whatever. I think this is the Greek Isles. And before they get to a boat, when we catch up with them at the very beginning, this girl, they kind of have a run-in with this one girl who is ultimately going out to the islands too. There's a family that she babysits for out there. And so as a result of an accident, they actually invite her along and promise to get her to where she's going. And so along the way, there's a tarot card reading and involving, I think, one of the characters' ladies who's pregnant, and I think it's her. Anyways, there's a scene where I think it's Tisa Farrow's character is sitting on the edge of the boat and looking at the cards, and then she just, out of, I don't know, this willingness to just accept what's coming, she just lets the cards fall out of her hand into the water. And I always found that moment to be one of the more subtly intriguing moments in terms of fate and providence, and sometimes how it welds its hand, and you'll get locked into a situation where it's coming. and there's nothing you can do to sidestep it. And that just creates the kind of ambiance and atmosphere of that, man. And when they get on the island and it's uninhabited, there's, we find out there's been a plague of sorts. Well, this man who was, we find out later into the film, it's almost sort of like a whodunit too, sort of mystery vibe, where these kids are just, call them kids, but they're not really kids, but they're trying to ascertain exactly the mystery of where do these people go, what's the cause of it, and it all just sort of leads up to a great moment towards the end. And but they find out that this guy, unfortunately, was involved in an accident where him and his wife and his son were left adrift, and the boy dies, or he's basically on the verge of death, and he wants to eat the boy, and the mom will not let him. And he, out of just delirium, I guess, stabs her. And when he does, he's overcome with the blood. And just so you get the idea that he probably fed on his kid and his wife. So when he emerges from the water, which is a scene in the beginning of the movie, when he emerges from the water, this delirious monster goes on a eating binge of the island populace and those who can't get off the island. Dude, there is a movie packed into that one, man, that needs to be done someday by the right pair of hands. God, before K&B disappears, how I would love to see the practicals on that. And so once they're on there, the boat ultimately ends up being dislodged, and they can't get to it, and so they're trapped on this island, and so they got to basically fight for survival against this beast, man, the beast. George Eastman is just awesome in this movie. There's a couple highlight moments for me. One is actually towards the end when the two girls are up in the attic of the mansion that they ultimately are in. They're hiding up in the attic because the Anthropophagous has been chasing after them. Well, he suddenly stops banging on the trap door, or the entrance way up, right? And so there's this quiet, right? There's like nothing happening. And then you just know, man, whatever it is, it's coming. And this poor girl, man, is just sitting there, and all of a sudden, man, this hand goes right through the roof, man, grabs her by the hair and just starts to pull. And it's like, oh, man, it's one of those moments in cinema history, man. And actually, that moment might actually be in my part of the intro of the vid. That and the wine vat, same character. She is actually a survivor. This one girl. And it's actually the girl that one of the girls that is there had babysitted in the past for. She's blind. And so her sense of smell actually allows her to stay hidden. Well, she's been hiding in this, like a huge vat of wine. And of course, one of the guys is down there poking around, and she just suddenly like springs up out of the wine, man, covered in what looks like blood. And then just swings this huge butcher knife. That's a great moment. There's a lot of neat moments in this movie. The atmosphere, some of the crypt scenes. It's just, I love island horror, man. I love it when somebody is just trapped somewhere they can't get off or away. And islands always seem to work for me. I think this is and I know D'Amato is known for a lot of other things. I think in terms of horror, though, this really should have been a trilogy, a loosely knitted trilogy. Absurd, I know, is there as a follow-up sequel of sorts, but there's really no connection other than George Eastman and D'Amato working with one another, and Eastman being the main antagonist. But I don't remember if it was an old copy of Fango or Gore Zone or something. It just seems like I read somewhere once in an article that there was ideas about maybe a facility in one of the Greek Isles that was doing scientific experiments or something that might have been the cause behind, I don't know, whatever it is. You could have just done another movie like an Absurd, like an Anthropophagous, but be its own film, and 3 could have been D'Amato's loosely knitted trilogy, like the Gates of Hell trilogy or whatever. It could have been his trilogy, and I just missed it, man. D'Amato, though, did have Filmraj, which is a company that back in the day was allowing up-and-comers to direct and get films done. Michele Soavi is benefited from that with Stage Fright. Was asked by D'Amato to do that film, and of course Dario gave him his blessings. And if you know anything the history of Michele, but D'Amato had a really nice, albeit not near as large as I wish, Film Raj, his involvement in some of the horror movies that he made, which was just not near the many of the other sorts of films he was making. But I'm so glad he made this movie. And I don't know how much he actually thinks or thought of this movie, but I grew up with this, man, as a kid. This is the movie that as a punk kid gets on VHS, man, goes home and throws it on their 25-inch console TV on their VCR player in the middle of the night, darkness, man. This just lights up the imagination. This is great stuff for Halloween, man. Any time of the month of October, man. And throw it up what's absurd, man. Joe D'Amato, man, for number, what is this, 15, man, 15. Some Anthropophagous for you. As always, we end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.